Please welcome Fred Azcarate. Fred.
Good afternoon. Are we ready to make a little noise today? Power! Power! Power to the people. 'Cause the people's power is getting stronger by the hour. And there ain't no power like the people's power. Power! 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 All right, make a little noise after lunch today. I want to thank District 10 Director Bob McCullough for that generous introduction. Thank you, Bob, your newest elected director. I want to thank the leadership of the Steelworkers, your entire executive board, for inviting me to be with you here. This has been an amazingly inspiring convention. I've really appreciated the chance to be with you here this week. I particularly want to thank President Leo Gerard. You know, Leo, I've worked with Leo and the Steelworkers for over a decade now. First, when I was with Jobs and Justice, then when I was with the AFL-CIO. And I can truly say, and I know you've heard this before, that you all are very lucky to have a leader like Leo. He's not just a visionary labor leader, he's a visionary leader of the entire progressive movement. You know, it's an honor to stand here before the delegates and guests of the Steelworkers Union. But I have to tell you, I kind of know a little bit how Brother Stan Johnson feels, having to go on after my brother and former boss, Rich Trumka, not to mention the Senate Majority Leader or the President, even if it was by video. Now, I don't have too much time this afternoon, but I have time enough to do three things. First, I want to talk about the threats we all face. I'm pretty sure you've figured them out because you all face them every day and you live them in your hometowns and your communities. Second, I want to talk about what opportunities exist for progressives, even in the midst of the challenges we all face. Finally, I want to talk about how we as U.S. Action face up to the threats and take advantages of these opportunities. You know, it's a challenging time for progressives. You know it, I know it. There continues to be an ascendant, radical right Tea Party effort across this country. Republicans in Congress have been effective at blocking any forward momentum of any significant federal policy reform, whether it's comprehensive immigration reform, increasing the minimum wage, extending emergency unemployment benefits, enacting jobs and infrastructure legislation, you name it, they put the brakes on it. But unfortunately, they're not just satisfied at gridlock at the federal level. The right wing continues to press their agenda in the states. Even though millions of Americans have benefited from the expansion of the Medicaid program, millions more are put at risk because 22 states have refused to take federal monies to make sure more in their states have health care coverage. Now, all this would be enough to give us pause, but brothers and sisters, I think the real danger we all face from the right is their relentless push to take away our ability to organize, to mobilize, and to fight back. First, they came for the unions. You know, given the gains the steelworkers have made in collective bargaining, you know how important it is to make all of our lives better. I'm always telling progressives outside the labor movement, I'm always telling them that without a strong, effective, and independent labor movement, we can't realize our potential as a progressive movement. Without collective bargaining rights, we can't ensure that we and our communities get our fair share of the economic pie. We know all this, but unfortunately, so do those that want to increase the gap between the rich and the rest of us. Globalization, rotten trade deals, the loss of the freedom to form unions, they've all led to an eroding manufacturing base as jobs are shifted overseas, and increasingly workers can't bargain their way to a better life for themselves and their family. And it's not just private sector workers facing the squeeze. Right-wing governors like Scott Walker, yeah, it's okay, you can boo, John Kasich, there you go, Chris Christie, Rick Snyder, they all seem to be trying to outdo themselves to see who can screw over their state workers more. Cutting pensions, privatization, taking away workers' right to organize, and ultimately vilifying public workers is all part of their plan to get rid of unions. Now, this would be enough, but then they also came for our right to vote. You know, democracy only works when we have the free and unfettered right to vote for the candidates of our choosing. Unfortunately, part of the right-wing agenda is to take away this cornerstone of America's democracy. More than 30 states have introduced legislation or enacted laws that would make it hard for voters to be, well, voters. They've shortened early voting periods. They've enacted photo ID laws and other laws that require greater identification requirements, including proof of citizenship, in order to register to vote. But they haven't been satisfied with voter suppression. Extremist gerrymandering has devalued our vote. They've made too many districts uncompetitive and ultimately taken them off the electoral map. Now, these are systematic attacks on democracy, and they affect everybody. But we know their impact has been meant to be more profound amongst African Americans, Latinos, Asian Americans, and other politically underrepresented communities. Now, that would have been enough, coming after our unions and then coming after our democracy. But then they came after our women and people of color and immigrants. The fact that there still exists significant pay gaps for women and people of color is proof enough that those key constituencies are kept from sharing fully in economic prosperity. Recent attempts to turn back the clock on women's rights, they signal a new war on women. Attacking choice and limiting access to contraception are just some of the right-wing agenda that are moving in our legislatures and in our courts. They've also attacked immigrants, many of whom have lived here for years, working hard and paying taxes. Most recently, they've attacked the children who've made their way to our southern borders, as if it were easy for them and their families to make the decision to leave the violence they face in their home countries and make the hard journey north. Taking one by one each of these attacks on our core constituencies would be challenging enough. As a whole, these attacks add up to an attack on our ability to organize, build power and organization. It underscores their cynical vision of America. Their vision of America, it's resulted in stagnant wages, greater inequality, less democracy, and more economic insecurity. Their vision of America has crushed the hopes and dreams that working families have for a better life. Young people are faced with a depressing job market and the burden of crushing debt if they're able to even go to college. And we're all worried about how we'll make ends meet when we retire. It's horrifying to me. It's horrifying to me that for the first time in our country's history, a majority of us believe that opportunity and life will be a little less positive for our children than it was for ourselves. It's horrifying that the American dream that they're tearing the heart out of the American dream. But we know it doesn't have to be this way. And brothers and sisters, that's why I want to take a little time to talk about these challenges we face together. You know, I've been inspired by your convention theme, a union that works. Well, we at US Action want to work side by side, shoulder to shoulder with you to fix our democracy and fix our economy. I know many of you might not have heard of US Action, and that's our fault. We have the dubious distinction of being, honestly, pretty sucky at branding. We're a federation of 21 statewide progressive organizations across the United States. So while you might not have heard of US Action, you might have heard of Citizen Action of New York, or Keystone Progress, or Missouri Pro Vote, or Washington Community Action Network, or Florida Consumers Action Network, or Maine People's Alliance, or Citizen Action of Wisconsin, or New Jersey Citizen Action, or New Hampshire Citizens Alliance, or Progress Ohio, or Georgia Rural Urban Summit, or Progressive Maryland, or Iowa Citizens Action Network, or any number of our affiliated state organizations. We've got state affiliates in 21 states, but we also have members and activists in every state. In fact, we have over 1 million members and activists in our network across the US. We have thousands of leaders, nearly 300 staff in our network, and a very little bit of money. But more importantly than the infrastructure we've built around the country are the issues we work on. In New Hampshire and Ohio, we've organized to win Medicaid expansion, gaining access to health care to hundreds of thousands of people in those states. US Action affiliates in Maryland and West Virginia have fought and won increases in the minimum wage. Folks in Washington State led the way by passing a $15 minimum wage at SeaTac and Seattle. Folks in New Jersey have led the way in our women's economic agenda, winning paid sick leave laws in Newark and Jersey City. New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York helped some Republican members of Congress see the light and do the right thing on SNAP. Our folks in Maine got property tax relief passed that will significantly save seniors money on their tax bills. So I'm proud of what we've accomplished as US Action, but the truth of the matter is that our work, our victories, our activism is not near enough given the challenges we all face. The question for us is, what do we do in the face of all these challenges? We think it starts with having a vision for America, a vision that I think we share together. An America that works for all of us. A country where hard work is rewarded by fair pay. Where workers can collectively bargain for a better life for themselves and their families. A country where our children have real educational opportunity. A country secure and strong where you don't have to worry every day about our economic future. A country where our seniors can retire with dignity that they deserve. But we know it's not enough just to have a vision for America that works for all of us. We need to organize to make it a reality. Before I came to US Action, we used to say we were fighting for the left wing of the possible. When I came on board, I said, heck no. Okay, I might not have said those words, but trying to follow Leo's good example, I said 2 different words, something like happy birthday, or they weren't happy birthday. But given the challenges we face, I think we need to push ourselves past the notion of being constrained by what's possible right now. We need to push and expand the limits of our possibility. While we work hard on key issues and campaigns, we need to have a vision that goes further than what might be possible today. Sisters and brothers, we need to fundamentally change the parameters of the debate. In fact, as progressives, our movement has always been about making the impossible possible. The civil rights movement, women's rights movement, labor movement, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and trans movement, immigrant rights movement, all of them would not have achieved what they have and what they will if those movements were constrained by the politics of the possible. What if the civil rights movement settled for separate but equal? What if the LGBT movement settled for civil unions rather than marriage equality? What if the labor movement settled for meet and confer rather than collective bargaining? You know, this isn't to say there aren't intermediary steps in any campaign, but brothers and sisters, we've got to shift and change the parameters of the debate. Take the minimum wage. Rather than debate whether the right level is $7.25 or $10.10 or even $15 or more, we need to shift the debate to what it takes to meet the basics in our society, how families have, how much they need to pay for food or housing, healthcare or childcare. Because the other side believes that any minimum wage is too burdensome for business. So I come to you today excited about what we can do together to rebuild our progressive movement, and that's what I think we can do best together. At the end of the day, this is about building power. That's why I'm so excited to be with you. I can think of no better group of aggressive progressives than the folks in this room and the members you represent back home. That's why we've worked with your political director, Tim Waters, to test and build a truly innovative and groundbreaking voter mobilization program for this fall. One that will not just help us win in November, but will continue to build power for our organizations. That's why I want to make sure we're connected at the state level. You know, truth of the matter is, we need to magnify our strength through the oldest of labor principles, solidarity. We have to make it clear to the right wing and to America that when they take on any of us, they take on all of us. We have to expect more. Expect more because we believe in the promise of America. We believe that everyone who wants to work should be able to find a job that can support themselves and their families. We believe that our children should be well cared for and well educated, and our seniors should be able to retire with security and dignity. We believe that what matters, as Dr. King said, is the content of one's character, not the color of their skin. We expect more from elected officials, our government, and most importantly, we expect more from ourselves. Brothers and sisters, we carry it on because we know we are the ones we're waiting for. Brothers and sisters, what the right-wing Tea Partiers and Republicans don't know is the strength of our solidarity. They don't know how hard we're willing to work to fight for the future. They don't know how far we are willing to go to win. They don't know the power of our solidarity, but we do. We know. We know we're fighting for our children. We're fighting for our parents. We're fighting for our communities. We're fighting for our unions. We're fighting for our democracy. We're fighting for our economy. We're fighting for manufacturing jobs. We're fighting for women. We're fighting for public services. We're fighting for our environment. We're fighting for our partners around the world. We're fighting for low-wage workers. We're fighting for immigrants. We're fighting for college athletes. We're fighting for our schools. We're fighting for our factories. We're fighting here in the U.S. We're fighting in Canada. We're fighting in the halls of Congress. We're fighting in our state legislatures. We're fighting in our workplaces. We're fighting in the streets. We're fighting together. United Steelworkers and U.S. Action together, fighting and winning. Thank you, brothers and sisters.